Man, I'm tired of this shit.
Dude, I was listening to that. Leave it alone.
This is absolute trash.
I don't care. Driver picks the station. Shotgun shuts his cake hole.
Passenger gets first dibs on everything. I have my finger on the button.
You know what? You want to fight about it?
Yeah.
Okay,
fuck
fine.
you.
Hey,
Fuck you.
leave it alone.
No.
It's mine.
Turn your trash off. Now look what you did.
Okay, doke. I can hear me. Can you hear me?
Unfortunately.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Dissonant Harmonics podcast. I am Frazier.
I'm still Josh after all these years.
It's so unfortunate on so many levels.
No,
and we are doing the Dissonant Harmonics podcast to talk to you about all the rock and metal musics and all the other musics things. So, Josh, why are you staring at your screen so blank-eyed?
I'm trying to think of a funny joke, but all I can think about is how I wish that whoever Bon Jovi saved would step away from the ledge, my friend.
Oh, no. For those of you that don't know, again, we'll talk about this. So Josh is in Tennessee where he lives now. I am still in Washington in the Pacific Northwest. And so Josh
I survived a hurricane. I worked during a hurricane, and it wasn't anywhere near as bad as the rain in Washington.
Yeah. In Tennessee, when they say it's a hurricane, what it actually is a slightly blustery day in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I've had worse in Washington. Everybody's complaining about how cold and wet they are, and I'm standing there in a t-shirt and work pants, moving giant metal frames out in the rain, going, "Is it raining?" I couldn't tell.
But so for those of you that don't know, also, so Josh has kind of a funky little setup because he plugs his computer into his giant TV, which is awesome. But so his computer is blank and down on the normal ground. His phone that is currently showing me his face because we're on a video call is kind of at chest height, and then his computer screen that is plugged in, the TV, is way up above his face.
I don't have a desk.
At all times, Josh is like looking up at this 45-degree angle, staring blankly, watching the screen, which is me. So it's kind of like he's just staring at a wall watching paint dry.
Hey, man, sometimes it's all that gets me through the day.
All right, so let's hit the news. There's quite a bit of news this week because apparently after Labor Day, everybody decided to just go ape. I don't know. So do you want to hit anything first? What should we go on? There's plenty to talk about.
All right, let's see. Let's come out the gate swinging and punching. Perry Farrell attacked Dave Navarro on stage at a Jane's Addiction show. And according to news sources, we have yet to figure out why Perry Farrell decided to just go ape on Dave Navarro.
And for those of you that there is a video, someone posted it in the comments or whatever. It's not very long, but all of a sudden you just see him kind of snap and start like shoving Dave. And the only thing Dave does is like puts his arm out to
stop him.
Perry. Yeah, and just kind of backs up. You know, people are like, it was a fight. And like, no, it wasn't a fight. Perry's like losing his mind and shoving Dave. And Dave's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I have one answer to that question. Drugs.
Hey, man, Perry Farrell's never done drugs.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Don't ruin my heroes like Dave Grohl.
Let's stay on the Dave train. Dave Grohl, obviously, for those of you who don't know, has announced a new child.
Yes, he has announced that he's the father of a new baby. That's not his wife's baby.
Whoops.
I swear to God, honey, I just slipped down the stairs and she was right there.
Right. Apparently, Josh said that he did. I mean, fair enough. Not saying this is morally correct, but he did get a divorce lawyer before all the news came out.
Yes, he secured a divorce lawyer before the infamous post came out, just saying that he has fathered, I believe it's a daughter, or just said a child. And
I've heard daughter, but
okay, so yeah, he's fathered a child outside of his relationship with his wife and 3 daughters, and that he is looking to reconcile and basically try to make amends to his family for this betrayal. But damn, we lost it. We lost one of the nice ones.
Right, that was it's like when.
And like I was telling Frazier before
Tom
this,
Hanks punched somebody.
Well, I mean, Tom Hanks can punch somebody. He has every right to. Like I was telling Frazier, you know, we finally good guy Dave Grohl finally did something bad, and all I'm saying is, Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse has done no wrong, The man goes across the country and picks up stuffed animals from crane machines and gives them to orphanages, and just took his daughter and daughter's friend to a 21 Pilots show. So, I mean, everybody says metal's bad for you.
Yeah, but it's not. Metal is good for you. You need your iron. Also, in other news, Bon Jovi had apparently they were filming a music video.
He's living the life of "Have a Nice Day" by saving somebody else's life.
Right. So him and I think it was the director of the video for his latest music video that hasn't come out yet. This was earlier in the week. Noticed a woman was standing on the edge of a bridge and was obviously contemplating jumping off and maybe committing sewer slide. And I would unalive myself if I had to sit there and watch Bon Jovi. Ow. And they went and talked to her for a few minutes and talked her off the bridge, and all was well. So high five to Bon Jovi and I think was the director of the video.
You just imagine going through the lowest part of your life, and you're like finally contemplating ending it all, and of all people, fucking Bon Jovi just walks up. He's like, hey friend, have a nice day.
Yeah. This is a sign from God. And then, so this is actually kind of a little bit of a big deal. The headline, which I love so much, just reads, "Dude makes $10 million from AI music, get arrested for money laundering and wire fraud." Looking into this a little bit, because when the story came out, it sounded like what had happened is him and a AI group or some other thing made a bunch of tracks under all these weird names, under all these different artist names, bunch of AI tracks, put them on Spotify, and he made a bunch of money off of it. And so I go, where's the laundering and wire fraud coming from? Well, it turns out he also created a whole bunch of bots to go listen to those songs. So basically he was using AI to listen to his AI tracks and got paid out approximately $10 million between all of the streaming platforms, whether it's Spotify,
which is crazy because
Amazon,
Spotify
YouTube.
was just caught with having to admit that they've only paid out 1% of royalties to all the bands on Spotify right now. So
right.
Those bots had to have been going fucking crazy on all of these services to get that kind of money.
Right. And so he was arrested because not only was he not actually having people listen to his fake music that he made on AI, but he also had bots that are AI go listen to the music that is made by AI. This is getting really weird. I'm in the Matrix now. Other fun news, Warped Tour's back. And by back, we mean it will be coming back next year. Yeah, that's Josh's favorite thing now. It does sound, this is where we do get a little bit cringy or a little bit worried, is it sounds like will be overseen and ran by Live Nation. I'm not sure if that was the case in the past. I kind of have a feeling it was already, that Live Nation was already running the show. But it does say that Kevin Lyman is going to be heavily involved. So it sounds like the problem of basically everything Kevin did, the heavy lifting, the securing the venues, getting the permits, getting the bands, he might still be getting the bands, but Live Nation's doing the rest of the heavy lifting when it comes to securing the venues, getting the times, planning the date.
Well, I mean, Warped Tour is Kevin Lyman's baby. If there's no Kevin Lyman, there's going to be no Warped Tour.
Right. And then the final thing, the Linkin Park saga continues, unfortunately. Jamie Bennington, the son of Chester, has started to
one of like 6 of his kids. I didn't realize he had so many kids.
Yeah, he has a few. But he is, apparently Jamie in particular, has been losing his mind. Not exactly sure why. There's some backstory that apparently he has been very contentious to a Linkin Park reunion, and is also throwing a lot of shade at the fact that Linkin Park announced their return with Emily, and the month that they're bringing out Linkin Park material is also on Suicide Prevention and Suicide Awareness Month. Yeah.
And on top of it, he says that apparently he's tried contacting members of Linkin Park. They basically kind of shrugged him off, and he has very vehemently put that he does not agree with a Linkin Park reunion. And I guess at the live stream of the new song, Mike had made a comment about how basically everybody there is for Chester, everybody there, it's their legacy to continue. And I guess he took offense to it because apparently he was there and said that it sounds a lot more like rambling, but also at the same time, apparently he is also getting a lot of death threats for this.
Yeah. So the statement reads as follows, and I'll read the second statement. This is the continuation. First, he made an Instagram post on his stories that was very odd.
Rambling.
Like it was very all over the place. But then he released this one, which makes a little bit more sense, but can be picked apart very easily. Quote, Uncle Mike used my words against me at least 3 or 4 times last night, knowing I was in the audience, knowing how I've been treated by all of the band. Jamie wrote on Instagram the day after attending the show. And on top of that, he made me Chester Bennington again. Apparently, he's going to tell the audience of every show that they are the voice and presence of my father. Disgusting. End quote. And what it sounds like he's mad at is, at the show, as you said, Mike Shinoda said, and in the role of Chester Bennington will be each of you, which is he's talking to the audience. So he was basically saying, Chester's still going to live on, but you're going to sing his lyrics and all that stuff, which I don't think is a bad thing. In my opinion, it sounds like Jamie might be struggling with either grief or loss or some kind of maybe mental health issue to some degree or another. Not sure exactly what's going on, and we can only speculate at this point, but I hope this gets resolved because it really, and I said this to Josh after the first Instagram post, it really is starting to sound like spaz ranting.
Yeah.
That's not
like he was calling out like members of the band. He was calling out like Mike Shinoda's wife and saying that they blocked him on social media, so the messages aren't getting to them and everything. But
I really think that this might be a mental health thing because it's in people that are like, well, that's mean to say. I'm not doing it to be mean. I'm doing it because I legitimately am concerned that's what it could be, and it's the way that it is happening with all of the. One thing that is a big indicator is when there's lots of when the complaint is going a whole bunch of different directions all at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like you can't keep a consistent story or a consistent complaint going. It's like, I have a problem with this, but then there's this and this, and it bounces all over the place is when you kind of start looking for that. So
you kind of have that manic crackhead energy of just trying to connect everything at once.
Right. And so I hope whatever it is, this gets resolved. I hope that if it is, a manic episode or something caused by grief or loss, that Jamie gets the help he needs. I don't know what's going on here. I know it's a big deal, right? Like we all know the Linkin Park and Chester being gone is a big deal, but this seems a bit over the top.
I mean, come on. All he's saying to Linkin Park is, "You're pushing me away."
Right. Oh, geez, don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm gonna do it. There's no one safe for my humor.
Oh, that was terrible. That was atrocious.
I'm not here. I'm not here for your appraisal.
If you couldn't tell, Josh is a dad.
Who told you?
Okay. So
no,
I think
what else did you forget? What else did you forget?
I don't know. What are you gonna go on about?
Papa Whitechapel's home, baby. Papa Whitechapel's home, baby.
Josh is so excited that
I'm excited that I can say straight up Tennessee natives, because I live in Tennessee and I'm a native, but I have no accent. Whitechapel has come back with a new song called "A Visceral Wretch," and not only have they come back with a new song,
it's pretty weak. It's soft. It's all acoustic anyway.
Anyways,
Josh is loading.
I'm loading. I'm trying to think of something that's not too mean to say, but
it's nice that I live all the way halfway across the country because there's no way in heck he can slap me now.
Oh, don't worry. I still have people that live there that are willing to do that.
Oh, okay.
You remember Andrew? He can do it.
Yeah. He's a couple hours away. I can outrun him.
Okay. But so
anyway,
when Whitechapel's last 2 albums came out, The Valley and Kin, they started really diving deeper into having clean vocals in their songs for a deathcore band. Arguably did it better than most bands nowadays that are deathcore are trying to do it now. Now that so many deathcore bands are starting to implement clean singing, Phil Bozeman said, all right, you know what? Now everybody's copying this style. This This song.
Oh yeah. I didn't believe it was him. All those screams were so different in terms of like different throughout the song. I almost was like, is there a guest vocalist on this?
Oh no, his vocals have always been top notch. Even going back and seeing him live a couple of years ago, like even live, he still hits all those notes live. And there's a difference when you're trying to be able to clean sing and do the vocals that he does without stretching it too far and having to try and go too high, too low, then trying to balance your singing into it. There's only so much you're going to be able to do of that live. So Whitechapel kind of went to more mid-ranges, a little highs and a few lows, but nothing too crazy on the last two albums. This one is like Papa Whitechapel's back.
Mm-hmm. Big, angry, bad Whitechapel is back.
Oh, yeah. Heavy song, heavy track, just rips it right out of the gate. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see him go back. We're going to see what happens, but I have a feeling that Whitechapel's going to come back and smack all of these baby deathcore bands in the dick and say, this is how you really do it. And then Suicide Silence can finally call it a day.
This is your
This is my 5-minute build up to about why I hate Suicide Silence.
Jeez. In defense, yeah, Suicide Silence needs to not Suicide Silence anymore.
No, we reviewed their last album in season 1. Go back and listen to it, and you can listen to the very not nice things I said about it.
Oh, it was hilarious. It was one of my favorite times. Josh just got ranty.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. Anyways, so album reviews, song reviews. What do we got today, buddy?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, we didn't pick a topic this week, so this might be a short one. We'll just hit the album reviews and call it a day, probably. You want to start first, or have me start first?
Let's start first because I have to say I really love the direction that Miss May I is going. Wait, no, As I Lay Dying is going, and it's
so bitter.
It's not terrible, but it's no apologies for the ocean between us.
He is so bitter about the fact that Ryan is still in As I Lay Dying.
Fuck As I Lay Dying.
Miss May I. Why are you so mad about this? You need to explain this to the audience because it's hilarious. I
have said since 2009, when Miss May I first came on the scene, they're like a baby As I Lay Dying. You know, Ocean Between Us came out, an album, I think it was 2 or 3 years before that album came out. And it was taking the mantle that As I Lay Dying put out and was running with it and was kind of doing some different stuff with it. But to be fair, Ryan on clean vocals and bass sounds a lot like Josh on vocals and bass and As I Lay Dying. And it was cool to see another band kind of take up that mantle, because after Ocean Between Us, As I Lay Dying started kind of getting more technical and kind of got into the groove that they're in now.
Right.
And since then, I kind of feel like they kind of put out not mediocre music, but it's more predictable.
Okay.
But
I agree. Between Shaped by Fire and this album, I'm seeing a lot of similarities. There's more progressiveness to this and more technicality and more like weird time signatures on the drums, like weird fills and stuff.
Well, you got
time beats.
Well, you got like I think 1 or 2 members from Unearth now. You have Ryan from Miss May I, and I forget who's on drums with them now.
I don't know. I couldn't remember. Well, if there's 2 members from Unearth and Ryan from Miss May I, and then Phil on guitars and Tim, that's 5 people. So
okay, so it's got to be one of Unearth's guitar players and drummers. I know I've seen the names before once they announced that pretty much everybody else was gone and Ryan was being introduced into the band. But I don't know. As I Lay Dying's kind of not so much a touchy subject anymore, but now they're trying to take, the big mustache from Miss May I.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you see me playing with a knife right now, it's because I'm contemplating cutting a bitch about it. But it's like As I Lay Dying.
Josh is really mad that Ryan joined As I Lay Dying. That's what it comes down to.
Well,
he wants Miss May I back.
Well, Miss May I is back they're re-recording one of their big albums, which again we talked about last episode, where bands are starting to re-record their biggest hit albums, basically.
Stop it.
And
Unless the production is so bad from 30 years ago, you don't need to re-record your album. Leave it alone.
I know. And even Motionless in White just did this too with Reincarnate for the 10th anniversary. They went re-recorded the title track.
Oh, they did? I didn't know they re-recorded it yet.
They did. The production sounds pretty similar, but Chris's vocals...
Because the production wasn't bad on the first one.
No.
The production still holds up on the first one.
His vocals do sound better.
Right.
It doesn't try and do the higher pitch singing that he does on some of those older albums, but I'll put it to you this way, like with the album that we're going to review today, the production can affect it to a degree, but it just comes down to why do we feel like we have to do this?
I think the big reason that they're doing is because it's their biggest album, and then if Taylor Swift started this. If you re-record your album independently without a record label, now you can re-release that album. Everyone will listen to the new one, and the record label won't be able to touch any of the money.
Right, and that money's going to go straight to you if you're independent.
Right. Well, because they're releasing all these albums independently.
Right. So, anyways, there's my rant, but no.
Anyway, so then we'll get back to the music of As I Lay Dying.
Hey, you said this was going to be a shorter episode. I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Okay. So they've released 3 new tracks. One is called We Are the Dead. One is called Burden. And I cannot remember the third one.
I think it's called The Cave That We Fear to Enter or something like that.
The Cave We Fear to Enter. Yeah. The Cave We Fear to Enter, We Are the Dead, and Burden. Burden was the first one they dropped. I really like Burden. I'll say this, though. Every time I hear it, I immediately think it's like Viking metal. I'm like, this is what warriors listen to go into battle, because it sounds like...
Oh, man, I love Amon Amarth.
Right, exactly.
I think the biggest bombshell for me on this new track they released is the fact they got Tom Barber from Chelsea Grin and Lorna Shore fame and Alex Terrible.
Yeah.
Like
the only problem I had is I couldn't figure out where Alex's vocals were, because in the music video Tom's in the entire second verse, but I couldn't figure out where Alex was.
That's, I feel like, the problem with Alex Terrible, because he doesn't do anything obscenely crazy with his vocals like he does in Slaughter to Prevail. Like that's what happened with Falling Reverse's song. I think it's the song Ronald that he has.
The end of it they scream back and forth to each other, but you can't tell when it's changing vocals.
Yeah, because Ronnie really worked on his lows for that song, and he can match almost to where Alex is.
Right.
But Alex doesn't do anything. He doesn't do any sort of like deep gurgle on those stuff. So that's my only like real hang up with this newest song, is that if I'm going to have Alex Terrible in this song, I want him to fucking just unleash on that song. I want him to be focused on.
It seems like he's like, okay, I'll do the feature, and then he shows up and does his job and just doesn't like put a whole bunch of extra effort into it.
Well, I mean, when you listen to Slaughter Prevail's music, that's pretty much where he puts all of his effort into.
Right. So, I'd honestly, the Cave We Fear to Enter, I didn't hear a whole lot, maybe because I thought it was forgettable. But I will say that both Burden and We Are the Dead almost sound really similar.
They do.
We Are the Dead has a lot more technicality to it and like weird stops and time stuff, but they both do sound incredibly similar to each other. I think We Are the Dead's a little bit heavier, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say Tim's voice has changed a lot. His low, like the way he screams now, almost sounds like he's gargling water a little bit.
I would say he's definitely, there's definitely like 3 different eras of Tim vocals. You definitely have like the early As Lay Dying, the mid As Lay Dying, and now this new wave of it.
Right, the from Shaped by Fire on so far.
Yeah.
I would say that the second wave started after Shadows of Security.
Yeah.
Like when the Powerless Rise came out, that was like the second wave.
Well, so Ocean Between Us is when he had to clean up his vocals so that he could sustain them, because Frail Words Collapse, Shadows Are Security, he had more of like a raw sound to his vocals because he wasn't trained as well on it.
Right.
And then there's the whole list of all the demos and stuff they put out in a compilation album, I think around the time that Shadows Are Security came out. And
yeah, it was. So I'm looking at the release dates. It's after An Ocean Between Us.
yeah, Ocean Between
really
Us is the one that he really cleaned up his vocal style, and then
But
from then on out.
But after that, which the big release after that was the Powerless Rise. Obviously, they had This Is Who We Are, but when the Powerless Rise came out, that was like the second coming, all the way through Awakened, and then Shaped by Fire and this new album kind of have a different, like, brutal, gurgly kind of sound to his screams.
You know that Josh actually wasn't a member of the band on Ocean Between Us?
Yes.
He's listed in the liner notes as just providing the bass and clean vocals, but he's not listed as a band member.
He wasn't a member at the time. He was just touring member and then got added in. The funny thing is on Shadows or Security, I'm not sure if this is true. I'd have to look into it, but the guy that did the clean vocals wasn't the guy in the band. It was like a guy that did it in the studio, and then the guy that was actually in the band came and did it.
No.
Like Tim Harris or something.
No. No.
Right. So yeah, I give these like a 6 out of 10. They're fun to listen to, but they don't really grab me anyway. Not like Shaped by Fire, I feel like was a really, really good album. But this one kind of, I was like, okay, it's Shaped by Fire 2.0, and even some of the songs are starting to sound like each other. So
yeah, I feel like that's going to be kind of like their signature sound for at least a couple album cycles.
I think that might be why they're getting features in, just to kind of spice things up a little bit. But we'll see.
I don't know. I give them a 5 or 6 out of 10. They're not my favorite. I'm gonna still only pretty much go back to Ocean Between Us and Shaped by Fire.
Right, they're good. They're just not great. They're not
right.
They're trying some different stuff. They have some different members, so I'm kind of curious to see what happens. So, and then we have your album to review.
Fraser, what did you think of my album? Why don't you talk about my album for a little bit? Let me see what you think.
I mean, why? What are you doing? What game are you playing right now? You're scaring me.
There's no game. It'll be fun.
Uh-huh. I thought it was, I mean, it's Cavalera Conspiracy. We love the original album. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, I think my problem with it is the re-recording stuff. Like, you know, I love Cavalera Conspiracy. Everybody loves Max, but why are we re-recording this was more of what I got hung up on.
So, what I feel like with, Cavalera Conspiracy has been re-recording the early Sepultura albums that they can retain the rights to because Max Cavalera wrote everything.
Yeah, Roots, Bloody Roots, the good stuff.
He's not doing Roots. That's 97. This is back like early 90s.
Before that.
So,
before that.
They have gone back and re-recorded their album Schizophrenia, which is one of the bigger albums by Sepultura when Max was on vocals and guitar. My big conspiracy is that, so the big kerfuffle in Sepultura was that something to do with Max Cavalera's wife being introduced into the dynamics of the band. The band didn't like it, so Max said, "Fuck you guys," and left.
Okay.
His brother was on drums, and I believe stayed on for a few more albums, and then he kicked out after a while. But I think that they were going back and re-recording these albums because basically Max went to his wife and said, "Honey, look, Sepultura's on on their final shows. I want to go play with them," and she said, "No."
Right.
And he's like, "Well, fine. I'm going to go play my own albums." But
right. Yeah.
So Cavalera Conspiracy is kind of an odd band for me because they've gone by a few different names. They've retained only originally 2 members, which are Max and Igor Cavalera on guitar and drums. So, and starting as the band Inflicted, and then had to change their name for legal reasons like everybody does. What's weird is I found that some places list this album as just being done by a band called Cavalera, not Cavalera Conspiracy, to try and differentiate between the two. But these albums on streaming platforms is all by Cavalera Conspiracy. They had the artwork completely redone by the same artist, just to give it a little breath of fresh air. And the final track on the album, Nightmares of Delirium, was actually not on the original album.
Oh, so it's like is it a new track or is it?
It was a leftover. It was a leftover track that wasn't done that they went back and finished. And re-put out without giving any sort. I believe they still give all the rights to everybody that wrote on Schizophrenia.
Okay.
Oh, I go back and listen to this album. It's like, it doesn't sound any different. This is how I thought it sounded like when I was a kid. What's the difference? Then it's like, oh, I can listen to this album. It's like, it doesn't sound any different. This is how I thought it sounded like when I was a kid. What's the difference? Then it's like, oh, right. Yeah, no. This. It's like, oh, yeah, no. This is definitely a lot cleaner and definitely a lot better.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, when you go back, it's like when you play Halo Master Chief Edition and you have the ability to change the graphics back and forth. So then when you change the graphics back and forth, you're like, I thought this is what it looked like. And then you press the button, you're like, oh, okay.
Or like when I try and play Final Fantasy 13 on my Xbox, and it's like, oh, man, I forgot what 15 FPS looks like.
Right. Exactly.
So
sometimes they're endearing, though.
So Cavalera Conspiracy has also recruited some members to play these shows with them, to play these songs and record on this album. So they've got Travis Stone from Pig Destroyer on guitar, and get this, another Igor Cavalera. There are two Igor Cavaleras on this album.
Huh. So
there's Igor, which is Max's brother, Iggor, Cavalera on drums. I believe this is a nephew that is also named Igor Amadeus Cavalera on bass guitar.
Oh, so it could be Igor's son, Igor Jr.
Igor's son, or if there's another sibling that has a kid that just plays bass. Because I want to say that they did that. Soulfly, I believe, did that with what I think was Omen. They brought on one of the Cavalera's sons on drums.
Oh, okay.
Or another instrument. I remember that was the big one, is that they were like, oh yeah, we're bringing up this other person on here. But the original album came out in 1997. We have this new album in 2024. And honestly, it's cleaned up, but retains the grittiness that the old album had.
Right. Well, Max Cavalera is the king of making it sound gritty.
Yeah. Like, his vocals now sound better, I feel like, than the original album. Because you had some of those old death metal albums that almost had kind of like that echo effect, like that echo filter on their vocals. Entombed did it. Sepultura was pretty responsible for having that too. But that's gone on this one up until probably at least Roots, because that was the last album with Max before Derek Green took over.
Okay. Well, that's good, though.
I mean, it'd be cool to up until probably at least Roots, because that was the last album with Max before Derek Green took over. But I mean, it'd be cool to see him up until probably at least Roots, because that was the last album with Max before Derek Green took over. But I mean, it'd be cool to see him do it. But it falls into that same line of these bands are all re-recording all their albums.
Right.
I don't really need a re-recording if I can help it, because I have the original.
Right. Well, and that's like, if I may use this example, the Amity
Fraser's picking his nose.
Redid Father's Son, and it sounds like a completely different song and a completely different band. And I'm like, you're kind of not that it's like bad. Like, if that's a new vision you have for it, that's great. But you're completely trashing the original one. Why not just make a new song that sounds like that, change the lyrics? You know.
If Suicide Silence does this, I'm going to stab somebody. I will go on record right now, because I know the Suicide Silence has no more cats in the bag to pull out. Right. And if they touch any of those old songs, I will go on record and say I will stab somebody. I don't know if it's going to be somebody involved with the production or anything. It's just going to be a somebody.
Don't know who, but it'll be someone.
Somebody will be unlucky enough to get that rage and then be like, this is because Eddie ruined Suicide Silence.
Yeesh. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the music is overshadowed by the re-record thing. So, I mean, it was all right. I'm not going to put a number on it. It was all right. If you like it, go like it. If you want, it's one of those things where you're like, you know what the songs are. If you like Cavalera Conspiracy and want to give them their money directly, go listen to it so they can be supported.
Yeah.
But the music's already been out, so reviewing it kind of is like, okay, well, hey.
Well, it's like we've never gone and reviewed old albums, because Schizophrenia would have been on my list to go back and, do a review of an older album.
Right.
But I don't know. it's also kind of cool to see because Max's vocals haven't really been affected by his age. Live, they've been affected by his age, but when he records, like he sounds like he's back in his 20s again.
Right.
And just
maybe
has
a little bit of studio help there.
Probably, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it to him until I see otherwise.
Right. So. All right.
You're gonna love next week, buddy. You're gonna love it.
Should we give everybody a teaser and tell them what you're gonna do to me next week?
It's not even gonna be. It's not even a mainstream death metal band.
But it's a death metal band.
Yes.
Awesome.
It's gonna be a band named Insade called Human Obsession. It's one that I found that I've become obsessed with. So next week, everybody be prepared that Fraser's going to be very upset, and he's going to be complaining a lot more than he normally does about my music.
But it's okay. I'm sending him the Home Team, which is a Pacific Northwest rock band that released what I would consider the sexiest album of the year. So
Fraser was supposed to have this album for review this week or last week, but we decided to go with Linkin Park, and I was going back re-listening to it, and was like, I'm gonna listen to it. I'm gonna give it another run through. I went and listened to the lyrics and really dug into them. It's like, oh, this is Randy, baby. Not what I'm used to by the Home Team. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stop listening to this in the car with my family right now and turn on something else.
Right. So, all right. We will catch you next week. Sorry it was a short episode. We have some appointments to get to and some things going on. So
we still love you, but we'll make it longer next week.
Yeah. So we will catch y'all later. I am Fraser.
Unfortunately, I'm still Josh.
And see you next time.
Bye-bye.